So you're ready to plan your dream trip to Japan. Maximizing your points or cash back with your credit cards can be a great way to save on the trip. In this video, we're going to give several tips to help you choose the right credit cards for booking and taking on your trip, including which cards you can and can't use to book Japanese trains. Then we'll talk about how to maximize your earnings on the money you spend on your trip, and I'll give specific examples of the credit cards we use to get the best multipliers for places where most tourists spend a lot of their money. So first things first, despite Japan's reputation as a cash-based society, this is rapidly changing, and it is becoming more and more possible to use a credit card for most of your transactions in major cities, even if you need to do so through the use of an IC card. More on that later. With that being said, I would still recommend taking a debit card that will allow you to get cash from an ATM in Japan, which are very prevalent and many of which charge very low fees. Check with your bank to see what fees they will charge for using an ATM internationally, or look for one that reimburses international ATM fees. We travel with a Charles Schwab Visa debit card, which credits us back for ATM fees we incur. On that note, make sure any credit card you take on your trip has no foreign transaction fees, or FTFs. There are tons of cards out there that don't charge FTFs, so it shouldn't be too hard to find one. And look for one that offers the best return on your spend. And lastly, when offered the choice, always choose to make a charge in the foreign currency, in this case Japanese yen. This is true anywhere in the world, but if you choose to be charged in US dollars, you will often be charged a service fee of several percent, and will also get a worse exchange rate on top of that. It's just more cost effective to choose a card with no foreign transaction fee and make the charge in yen. Don Quijote, a major Japanese chain store popular with tourists, lets you choose between dollars and yen if you use a Visa card, and some other places do this as well, so be aware of that. The first things you'll probably be paying for your trip to Japan are your flights and hotels or other accommodations. If you travel a lot, it's important to have a good travel credit card, or more than one if you're brand loyal to a hotel or airline. We made a video on the first 3 to 5 credit cards we would recommend for travel, which I will link below. To sum it up, however, you should use a credit card with good travel protections, like the American Express Platinum Card or the Chase Sapphire Reserve, and with good multipliers or bonus points for travel spending like flights and hotels. Having extra perks like lounge access on flights can really enhance your experience. We use our American Express Platinum Card to book most of our flights because it earns 5 points per dollar on flights and has good travel protections. We use our Marriott or Hyatt cards for hotel stays when we stay in those chains, and use a card with an annual credit for hotels or travel, like our Capital One Venture X, or a general travel card if we stay in other hotels. We'll talk more about general travel cards later in this video, and we'll save the discussion of annual travel credits for another video. Now, you may have heard that American Express is not accepted much outside the United States. This is certainly true in some places, like much of Europe, but in Japan, American Express is widely accepted, as is Discover due to a partnership with JCB Bank. You can download the mobile Suica or Pasmo apps on the iOS or Android stores and use them for public transportation and for payment at many shops and restaurants. And those can be funded with a credit card as well, although not every card seems to work on every platform for loading these cards. We use the mobile Suica app and have loaded our Suica cards with both Visa and American Express cards. I always recommend that whenever you travel, you take at least 2 credit cards from 2 different issuers and from 2 different banks. In Japan, Visa and MasterCard are also very widely accepted, although there are instances where Visa and MasterCards issued outside of Japan have trouble authenticating as payment methods on some websites, as we'll talk about next. So for us, we always take an American Express card and either a Visa or a MasterCard at the very least when we go to Japan. Okay, let's talk about booking high-speed bullet trains or Shinkansen. We like to book our train tickets ahead of time using a website called SmartEX. There is a discount for booking ahead within a certain window, and you can get the tickets on your phone and save time waiting in line at the station when you're in Japan. You can also buy tickets on other travel sites like Klook, although in my experience, you will pay more for the exact same ticket than you will if you book it ahead of time on SmartEX with the discount. We made a whole video walkthrough on using SmartEX to buy tickets for the Shinkansen and explained when to buy them and why your foreign issued Visa or MasterCard may not be accepted to pay for those tickets. So please check that out. It will be linked below. Suffice it to say that Amex works best for SmartEX. You can also buy train tickets in person when you're in Japan, even on the day of travel. Do be aware that during peak or busy times, these trains may sell out and you may not be able to get reserved seating. For now, ticket pricing doesn't change if you buy last minute, other than that you don't get the early discount you would with SmartEX. But Japan is starting to move to dynamic pricing on some Shinkansen lines, so that will likely change, and waiting till the last minute will cost you more. So here's where it is good to have a card that gives a good spending multiplier for general travel, or for transport in some cases. Chances are you'll be using an IC card like a Suica or a mobile Suica like we talked about earlier for most of your subway and local travel. But in the cases where you want to buy an actual ticket for a last-minute train or some other kind of transportation, it can be good to have a card with a generic travel multiplier to get you more points. We've taken an overnight ferry in Japan called the Sunflower, and we were able to earn 3 points per dollar on the booking. It was an amazing experience, and you can see our video of the Sunflower and Beppu, the area that we visited, linked below. A general travel card also comes in handy if you don't use a hotel card to book your hotels. We like to stay in Marriott's and use our Marriott cards for most hotels. But if you book using a travel portal or use Airbnb or something else for your accommodations, having a general travel multiplier can also be very helpful. We use the Inc. Business Preferred from Chase for 3 points per dollar on travel. This is a business card, but the Chase Sapphire Reserve also gives 3 points per dollar on travel. The American Express Green Card also gives 3 times points on travel, and many other cards have travel multipliers as well. So now I'm going to talk more about mobile Suica, and this is probably the biggest and best tip I can give on earning more points on your Japan travel spend, if you have a card that can take advantage of it, that is. As I mentioned, Japan has an IC card system, which is a reloadable card that can be used on public transportation like subways, buses, and trains, and can also be used to pay for things at convenience stores, many restaurants, and even a wide variety of other shops, pretty much everywhere. There is a mobile version of the Suica card, which is the IC card that's used in the Tokyo area, and that can be used throughout Japan and is available on the Apple and Google App stores. This card can then be loaded using a credit card from your phone, and if you have a card that gives multiple points per dollar on loading your mobile Suica, you can rack up a ton of points from most of your spending in Japan. Let me explain. Let's say you have an American Express Business Gold card, from which you earn 4 points per dollar by loading your mobile Suica card with it. You can then use that Suica for the subway, while shopping for souvenirs, buying electronics or clothing, at a restaurant, wherever Suica is accepted. And again, that is most places. And you'll earn 4 points per dollar on all of that spend, as long as you keep loading your Suica card with that credit card. Now, this is a great way to earn a lot of points easily because you don't have to worry about which card you're going to use at a restaurant versus a convenience store versus the train station, and you don't have to worry about things coding incorrectly. So aside from the American Express Business Gold card, the Amex Personal Green card earns 3 points per dollar when loading the Suica, and the IHG Premier card from Chase earns 5 points per dollar. I'm sure there are other cards that earn more points as well, but those are the 3 that I'm most aware of. And do be warned, however, that most cards, probably most of them, don't code mobile Suica loads as travel, but rather as internet services or something similar to that. So if you use your Chase Sapphire Reserve to load the Suica, you'll only get 1 point per dollar for doing so, even if you use your mobile Suica to buy a subway or train ticket. Now, we have tried many Chase cards, a Bank of America card, and some other things, and we have not been able to get those to code for multiples on the Suica other than the ones I've listed. But if you do know of any that offer extra points with Suica, please do let us know in the comments below. Now, also, if you don't have any cards on this list, use a card that gets 2 points per dollar on everything if you have one, like the Capital One Venture X. Just avoid cards with foreign transaction fees because you will be charged these fees to load your Suica, regardless of if you load it at home or while you're in Japan. Konbini, or convenience stores, are a big part of Japanese culture and are everywhere in Japan. They're a great place to get fresh and pretty cheap food and snacks at the end of a day, at a train station, or when you're on the go, and you will probably be using them on your trip. Everyone does. We use konbini a lot in Japan and have had entire meals of convenience store food. That may sound outlandish if you're from the US, but trust me, the food is delicious and fresh and, true to the name, convenient. With that in mind, it's important to have a credit card that gives you earnings at convenience stores. You can use your IC card or your mobile Suica, but if you don't have one of the cards we just talked about that gets high earnings with mobile Suica, try to find a card that codes konbini as grocery stores. Many Chase cards, maybe all of them, I'm not sure, code as grocery when you use them at konbini. We have used MasterCards and Visa cards that are issued by Chase and have had success getting both of them to code as grocery. So we use our Aeroplan card from Chase to get 3 points per dollar at convenience stores as grocery purchases, which earns 3 miles per dollar in the US or abroad. If you have a non-amex card with good grocery bonuses and no foreign transaction fees, it might be worth trying it at a convenience store to see if it counts as a grocery purchase. Now, I say non-amex since American Express cards typically earn only 1 point per dollar on grocery purchases outside the US, regardless of what they earn in the US. The Amex Gold is a great example of this. It gets 4 points per dollar on groceries at home, but only 1 if you're outside the US. Now, it always pays to have a good card to use at restaurants, rather at home or abroad. Restaurants have some of the best multipliers on spend, and there are tons of cards out there with 3 or even 4 times multipliers for dining out. And it would be a great opportunity to earn a lot of points if you can take one of these cards with you to Japan. We currently use the Amex Gold for 4 points per dollar at restaurants, which does work on restaurants worldwide, unlike the grocery spend. Our Marriott Bonvoy business card also earns 4 Marriott points per dollar on restaurants, and our Chase Sapphire Preferred earns 3 points per dollar, as does the Sapphire Reserve. There are tons of cards out there with good spending bonuses for restaurants, and chances are you have one of them in your wallet. So use the best one you have and enjoy those extra points. Don Quijote is the biggest discount store chain in Japan. They are everywhere, and they cater heavily to tourists. Now, it may seem strange that I'm offering a recommendation for an individual store, but trust me, if you go to Japan, you'll be shopping at Don Quijote, probably a lot, or Donke, as it is affectionately called. Now, Don Quijote has a massive selection of souvenirs, Japanese candy, treats and delicacies, clothing, knives, and also luggage for all that extra stuff you're going to buy there, and seemingly everything else. Each store has unique items reflective of the neighborhood or city where the store is located, and has tax-free purchasing for tourists. All this is to say, you'll likely be visiting Donki a lot, so you may as well take the right credit card along. Unfortunately, even though Donki has food and groceries, it doesn't code as a grocery store, so no extra points to be had there. In fact, we've tried credit cards from Chase, Amex, and Capital One, and they all code as a general retail store or something to that effect. That means you're probably not going to get bonus points from any of your credit cards. Though if you do know of one that offers extra points at Don Quijote specifically, please leave a comment below and let us know. Now, I would recommend you use the card that earns you the most on everything else spending. We have used our Capital One Venture X at Donki a lot because it earns 2 points per dollar on all spending, regardless of category. Of course, if you have a card that earns a lot on mobile Suica purchases, you can use that at Donki and earn multiple points per dollar. As I said earlier, that's the way to go if you have one of those cards, and it goes to show how powerful those cards can be if you can earn 3 or 4 points per dollar everywhere that IC cards are accepted. So just to recap our category spending and wrap this whole discussion up, the best way to earn points while in Japan is probably using mobile Suica with a card that has a high multiplier on it, like the Amex Business Gold or Personal Green Card. If you have that, it will probably be at least as good as all of these other card types, or better. Now, we talked about booking high-speed Shinkansen trains ahead of time using SmartEX, which we have found to be far easier with Amex cards. Again, we do have a video on how to do that. It's linked below. A general travel card is good to have always, not just in Japan. Booking last-minute trains, ferries, hotels, or whatever codes as travel, you can earn more points with one of these. We use the Chase Inc. Business Preferred for 3 points on travel, but the Chase Sapphire Reserve also earns 3 times points on travel. Konbini, or convenience stores, often show up as grocery store charges with Chase credit cards. We use the Chase Aeroplan card, but there are other cards that give grocery bonuses as well. Konbini do not code as grocery with Amex, but Amex doesn't give bonus points on grocery spend outside the United States anyway. And dining is a big category and a good chance to earn a lot of bonus points. We use the Amex Gold, but the Chase Sapphire cards are, again, great for this, as are many other cards. And lastly, Don Quijote stores are hugely popular with tourists in Japan, but I'm not aware of any way to earn extra points with spending there, other than the mobile Suica cards, so just use your best everything else card there and for any other general spending you do. So that about does it for credit cards to use in Japan. We've tried to give many ideas for all kinds of situations in Japan, but if you have other ideas, please leave them in the comments below. I also hope you'll consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel if you found this video helpful. And thank you for watching.